Asking for It, a Novel Approach. Episode 11. Regimen Change. Chapter 41. Dick doesn't want to move, but it may be coming. Neighbor issues. No cops involved just yet, but better safe than sorry. In his backyard, the Babes That Bash franchise has not been thriving. A half-dozen men lounge with their beers in hand, smoking cigarettes and leaning against the fence. There's Gimme, Jax, and Jason, regulars who help set up and make sure no one gets out of hand in exchange for the kick of sitting around and watching guys get beat up by girls. Of the other three, one is barely out of high school, two are in their 40s. Nervous, untrusting looks are exchanged between them. There's a burst of brittle laughter, but no one seems to have spoken with anyone else. By noon, there's a full dozen milling around the yard. The banter is mostly sotto voce, more of an indistinct murmuring. 90-something degrees heat and the sun's punishing glare oppress the yard. The men, like convicts on recreation time, shift positions listlessly, remove a t-shirt or polish sunglasses, perform some perfunctory calisthenic exercise before subsiding once more into a stultified stasis. In his kitchen, Dick is hard at work. It's the best turnout he's had since Michaela stopped coming out. He likes to think he's doing these guys in the yard a great service. There's been a lot of grumbling with the departure of his prize bully, but demand is still there. Curiously, Joey quit without a word shortly after Michaela. So, no video for a while. Dick is all right with that, though. They're in transition. He'd rather see how things shake out here in the yard before he goes trying to ramp up things online again. Every man out there has signed the waiver. Whether they'll participate or not, the letter of the law is being followed. Of course, this is the type of thing the authorities enjoy creating new laws to circumscribe. The real worry for the moment is Tiffany and Linda here. They have yet to show any true aptitude for the job. Between the gum-twisting Tiffany's run-on complaining and Linda's overheated silences, Dick is never confident they've paid much attention to anything he's tried to teach them about administering beatdowns, much less the more subtle art of humiliation. Essentially, Tiffany's determination to squeeze out as much cash as possible for herself and Linda's authentic ferocity are all he has to rely on. Neither has any genuine fighting skills. Though Linda can explode with impressive viciousness, like Tiffany, her blows are worryingly random. Windmilling arms and ill-balanced kicks result mostly in a lot of scratches and unintentional sweaty embraces as the girls attempt to wear down their willing victims. Looking them over, having just explained once more the concept of feeling out their opponents, Dick cringes at the skinny pair's party girl appearances. Over-made up and underdressed, they'd make more convincing streetwalkers. He's elaborated the whole idea of structuring bouts along the lines of verbal taunt, a few face slaps, and eventual, more heated assault. Tiffany brings her semi-vacant gaze back from the dusty gauze covering the kitchen window. She rolls her eyes in their black cosmetic holes and snaps her bubblegum by way of acknowledging Dick's last words. "They want to get smacked around, right? We get it." She continues ordering the tips of her parched peroxide blonde locks, following some obscure strategy. Linda has been glowering throughout, occasionally cursing under her breath. Now she stamps a foot and jumps up from her seat. "Okay, I bleaced the bastard. Which one?" And she is headed out the door. Thankfully, she turns briefly on her way out, and Dick has a chance to nod toward a guy on the near edge of the yard. Dick is keeping a low profile and stays indoors during the fights. Frowning darkly, Linda approaches the guy Dick has indicated. Retail manager type. He's a little pudgy and sweating in his white short-sleeved shirt. He looks up. Linda looks like she's surprised to meet some friend unexpectedly on an otherwise boring afternoon at the mall. A big smile replaces her frown. She walks right up to him, still smiling affably. Slightly baffled, the guy turns to set down his beer. Linda kicks him sharply in the shin, then springs onto his back with a dramatic screech. Much tearing of hair and high-pitched growling ensue as the guy drops his beer and staggers around, seeking a place to set Linda down without dropping her. Finally, he opts for subsiding gently to the ground. Linda jumps off him, comically thrusts a fist high in the air to declare victory. Bemused at having thus amused her, the retail man grins up at her uncertainly. Newly enraged, she swipes at his face, pink talons flashing, then switches to kicking him repeatedly in the ribs with one pointy-toed, high-heeled, pink suede ankle boot. Salary Dude squeals like a stuck pig, executes successive evasive maneuvers while still on all fours. The kicks come faster and more furious until finally he regains his feet and bolts for the side lot and the safety of the street beyond. Leaning over his sink and peering out the kitchen window, Dick groans and squeezes his forehead. Linda is having trouble attracting a new opponent. She seems convinced that louder, more continuous screaming will do the trick. A couple more guys edge away from the main group, most of whom grin foolishly at Linda as though they are there quite coincidentally. They throw glances toward the house, then disappear the way of Salary Dude and the others, and keep going. Concerned that even his typically disinterested neighbors might get nosy soon, Dick is considering refunds and cutting his losses for the day. Tiffany wants some coke before she goes out there. Dick hasn't done a line in more than a week, but he could sure use one now. Chapter 42. Lance looks at himself in his bathroom mirror. He hasn't looked so chipper at 7 a.m. in a long, long time. It seems crazy, but Michaela's proposing a sex-free threesome actually appeals to him. The sheer presumption of it gets him hot. She is simply in a league of her own. Just what kind of league that is another question. And that question has him feeling a bit giddy. Then his cell starts ringing at 7 a.m. He collects the phone from its charging station before a second ring. Michaela. He taps the screen's green accept button. Unconditionally and with pleasure, he thinks to himself. Well, good morning, sunshine. He saunters over to the center of the window wall. It runs from open kitchen the full length of his living room. The shades are still down. He fishes absently for the house remote in a black, lacquered bowl on an end table. You're up early, Mr. A. I was kind of looking forward to waking you up. Oh, sorry to disappoint. It's probably the earliest I've taken a call in I don't know how long. He finds the remote and thumbs a button for the room's shades. From the floor up, the wall of glass is gradually revealed. Well, you're a good sport. I'll hand you that. So, did you regain your sanity overnight? Just how good a sport are you? Oh, no regrets here. Don't tell me you're the dream police calling to cancel my little fantasy. Fantasy, huh? Oh, no. Oh, I'm not letting you off that easy. I'm making plans. Oh, I like the sound of that. Does the Edge get a wake-up call today, too? Never mind that. Edgy is my business. I want to know if you're ready to move in. His thumb slips off the remote button. The shades cease rising. His eyes are bugging out a bit, and Lance can feel it. The window's revealed lower half admits a brilliant light that pools around him. He's waist deep in it, and it consumes him painlessly, pleasurably, he sinks into it. "So, Mr. A, you fall off your stool there?" No, I was just, what does the Edge think about... Holy shit, Mr. A for anxiety. I told you, Edgy's none of your business. Who's this all about again?" "It's all about Michaela." His eyes have adjusted to the sea of light effect, and he sees a big goofy smile reflected back at him in his window. "That's right. I didn't think you'd forget. Yep, it's all about me. But you see, there is just a tiny wee perverse little corner of me that wants you to be happy too." "Oh?" "Yeah, so, living together. You'd probably be seeing me every day and shit. What could be better, right? I might be a slob that leaves dirty clothes and dishes everywhere, or I might be a regular little homemaker. You can't really know for now can you? But I'd be around a lot. Hey, and maybe edgy too. Indexed to our relative net worths, by the way, you'd be throwing down for most of the rent. But when you've made me a star, or whatever the hell it is you're trying to do all this time, I'll pay you back. And like I said, I'd be around a lot. So happy, right?" I'm delirious. "Oh, don't worry. We'll work out the logistics. I'm not going to keep you in a cage or anything. You'll still be able to jet off and take care of business. Not going to shoot myself in the foot now, am I?" The shade was rising again. The breadth of Miami Beach stretching out below, the ocean afire with a new day. "And guess where we're gonna live?" "Am I losing you again, Mr. A? Kind of quiet there." No, I'm with you. Just taking it all in here." "Attaboy. Bit early for 20 questions, I guess. Anyway, we're going to live here at my place. Bet you were worried you'd be on the hook for some beachfront real estate, weren't you? Something just expensive enough to hurt, diva style, right?" Strangely, he realized it hadn't even occurred to him. Toes in your own private sand, big sunglasses and a cocktail in hand. Well, the picture is appealing, I can't lie. My toes, huh? What is it with you guys? Don't answer. Forget it. I don't want to know. Bottom line, small as it is, my place is my own. And if I want to kick you out, off the couch, or at any other point, well, you get the picture, right? Right. Still sounding a little distracted there, Mr. A. Maybe you should get some more sleep. Give me a call later on. I've got to go for a run. Keep my superior female ass in shape. Bye for now. Chapter 43. Jim's streetheart sits in the chair to the right of the directors, at the far end of a polished black granite boardroom table. The room is silent and still. He has his eye on the frosted glass wall that separates him from a small field of spacious cubicles. Out there it bustles with clerical activity. Young people hustle between workstations. Jims imagines their conversations. Are they keeping the faith? Engrossed in topics relevant to the project of rectifying the gender divide? Or is it all telly-talk? Do people even watch the telly anymore? Embossed in the glass next to the boardroom's door, the Recalculate logo reads correctly from either side of the glass. How have they managed that? It's one of the many little aesthetic flourishes, the totality of which, he gathers, constitute this rebranding phenomenon he has grudgingly signed off upon. Jim's is still uncertain about branding, rebranding, or what have you. He has no regrets vis-a-vis the substantial expense of the changes. They seem too subtle subterfuge, and yet also lack sophistication somehow. Oh, for the old Society for the Devolution of Men's Powers. Could its demise have been avoided? Even his most trusted collaborators insisted it was time to diversify, expand their services, attract a wider paying clientele. For more than a year, Jims winced at the idea. But then it was brought to his attention that the acronym SDMP was now frequently, irreverently being bastardized. The S-dump. Jim's brainchild, the society was begun while he struggled to extricate himself from the pool of gentlemen scholars with whom he'd studied at Oxford. These paragons of outward propriety, after a pint, a sherry or three, would oh so smarmily reveal their retrograde attitudes toward women. Jims took solace in the principled company of his early co-conspirators. These were a literary Marxist and a radical anthropologist, disciples of Wordsworth both curious about Bakunin, not a girlfriend between them, so to speak, but sharing a thorough disgust for those who would keep women out of the pulpit, faculty lounge, and other seats of government. It was 1971, and the Times' early promise of enlightened equalities had been betrayed. Anxious for real progress, Jims and his comrades were aghast at the lip service of the psychedelic era's self-styled scions. In their paisley waistcoats, with their flowing locks, they were effeminate anti-feminists at best. With his disaffected friends, and with access to the Streetheart family fortune, Jims fostered a quietly growing cohort of womanists from all walks. And against the rest of the Western world, it sometimes seemed, they established a well-endowed and very exclusive research project. From those heady days to the present, much had been accomplished by way of community building. Enclaves of the like-minded had sprung up around the globe. Worshippers of the feminine creative principles spearheaded initiatives within the environmental movement, in political and economic domains. Theirs were battles to buttress women's incursions to the male-dominated institutions of medicine, the law, and the church. Members were also behind changes in the world of women's sport. This most outward expression of women's power had long been an area of fascination for Jims. In his adopted hometown of Toronto, a signal advance in the civilizing and democratization of sport had taken root in the past decade. The macho bedrock of ice hockey, perhaps the last great gladiator sport, was undergoing a tectonic shift. The banning of body checking and the inclusion of girls at all levels in minor hockey bespoke changes concrete and symbolic alike. Men sublimated their violent urges as spectators of hockey or American-style football. Jims found his own enduring pleasure as a philanthropist in the arena of women's sport. From the beginning, Jims had made efforts to keep kinky interests in women's sexual superiority from tainting the society's focus upon good works. He never doubted the rectitude of women's ruling over this most fundamental stratum of human life, the sexual. But there was a growingly public profile to be considered. The subject demanded the uttermost discretion. The intensity of his own passion convinced him of this. Still worse, North Americans seemed arch-adolescents where it came to all subjects sexual. The dangers of trivializing outweighed the potential advantages in popularizing female sexual supremacy. Recalculate's newly minted CEO is a woman eminently versed in media arts and communication, corporate governance, and the Machiavellian philosophy of power. She gets out of bed each morning to execute upon a self-imposed mission to eradicate patriarchal malfeasance in the world and ensure the like never infects the new woman of ambition. Lofty goals, perhaps, But Maxine Castigliani has long been determined that within her own purviews, at the very least, she will succeed. She strides the length of the boardroom, elegant in a tailored two-piece suit of charcoal gray. Her smile, seldom more than the faintest gesture, inspires Jim's streetheart. It expresses eloquently her very qualified satisfaction with society's glacial advances on the front of women's issues. It is a half-smile, equal parts éminence grise and a mild flirtation that flatters Jim's unspeakably. Her eyes, at the moment amused, soften her look, her jet-black crew-cut, the severe set of her jaw. The slight pursing of her lips suggests a magnanimous effort to conceal teeth too dazzling, perhaps fangs too frightening for mortal men. Jims rouses himself, rises from his seat, and takes the hand she prefers. He bends to place a light kiss upon the backs of her fingers. She suffers the old-world gesture without altering her vague smile. Maxine and Jim's streetheart share at heart one Machiavellian principle, and it is an important one for the furthering of the society, or recalculates, project. No enterprise is more likely to succeed than one concealed from the enemy until it is ripe for execution. The platitude, more commonly cited, "'Tis better to be feared than to be loved," is actually a sloppy paraphrase from The Art of War. Since it is difficult to join them together, it is safer to be feared than to be loved when one of the two must be lacking. Maxine Castigliani is enamored of nothing more than a good challenge. Privately, she reformulates the 500-year-old chestnut. It can be fun to be feared, but the greatest luxury is to be loved. Loved by thine enemy, birthright of the modern goddess, thinks Jims, as he admires Maxine's éminence at close quarters. Maxine will be feeling out the young American Jims is so enthusiastically promoting. See if she has the gift. To honor your own pleasure, you've got to feel entitled to the love of others, and that entitlement is born of one's self-love. Maxine made a point early on in their talks to grasp the essence of Jim's ideal of womanhood, an outward expression of unswerving self-love inspiring devotion, boundless courage inspiring fear. He was careful to avoid the term, but he was obviously describing a dominatrix. The combination of her attributes command the respect and utter compliance of those even remotely that way inclined. But what about the others? So I've looked at the package on our American goddess. As with so many things American, she certainly looks great on the surface, assuming you like your surfaces aggressive and seductive. Are you sure we like what's underneath? I've only had her ear for a brief evening's entertainment. I was charmed, but our capable friend Lance Abierti swears by her CFC without qualification. Given her scrappier attributes, you'd agree it is important we can count upon her composure. It was the preeminent position of CFC, or capacity for compassion, among Recalculate's operating principles that swayed Maxine Castigliani when she was first being wooed by Jims and his senior board members. The concrete business opportunities were not self-evident, and their mission statement was somewhere not far across the border from flaky. Still, the prospect of furthering a corporate vision based upon compassionate collaboration in place of the usual bottom lines rang true in Maxine's bones. There was a lot of business speak these days, foregrounding notions of collaborative methodologies, a lot of lip service to the undermining of hierarchies. But Maxine had seen no more authentic or comprehensive approach than that deployed in Recalculate's business model. As far away as any broad adoption of compassionate collaboration might remain, one shouldn't downplay the small gains already out there. The microloans initiative, for example, might end by revolutionizing investment in Africa and the Indian subcontinent. The SDMP, now Recalculate, had its fingerprints on half a dozen such large-scale yet grassroots business schemes. That is why I wanted a word before things got underway today. Michaela Mendoza, 26 years old, trained in martial arts, newly established presence in the burgeoning online entertainment niche of erotic fighting. Given she accepts our generous assistance, just what level of commitment to Recalculate's vision can we expect in return? Well, to be altogether honest, she, hasn't yet the full idea just what we do. Maxine Castigliani's eyebrows have arisen to form a casual arch of disbelief. Jims imagines behind that placid arch a churning disapproval. He knows himself to be its cause, and he shivers inward at the thought. The cool silence Maxine maintains in response to his confession is stirring delicious feelings of transgression within him. But Jim's streetheart is no longer the sop for pleasure he once was. In his mid-60s, he is able to restrain himself from wallowing too long in the wrong pools of pleasure, certainly in present company. I am heartily sorry not to have made this more clear, Maxine, but you see, we felt, Lance Abiarti and I, that Michaela might function better as an experiment of sorts, quite apart from the society's, that is, Recalculate's, shall we say, less risque affairs. Well, that makes sense, and I am relieved to hear it, but what kind of experiment are you boys cooking up, Jims? Nothing that could jeopardize the brand's high moral ground, I trust? Goodness, no, I promise you. We would promote Michaela's ascension to fame, but this will be done discreetly, at many arms' lengths from Recalculate. I appreciate your visibility in our public profile. Your corporate reputation is secure. I take it as my personal responsibility to ensure it. When you face the cameras, when you table meetings with notables, I guarantee your dignity. Don't be so sure I wouldn't enjoy causing a few waves, Jims. Just let's not sink the good ship in the process, yes? The monthly board meeting of Recalculate is set to begin. Its members filter in. On the agenda are the operational minutiae of guiding an enterprise multidisciplinary and global in its scope. Then there are 3 initiatives: Women Innovating Early Childhood Education, Women on the Verge of Corporate Success, and Next Gen Gender Queuing, a software-based initiative of interest to high school guidance counselors as much as for HR in the workplace. New Women's News will carry stories for each. An early SDMP spin-off, NWN, is not the obscure independent network it once was. None of these worthy undertakings are earners. The many endeavors and their annual proceeds are insufficient for Recalculate to break even. Maxine does not worry the issue. For now, she sees minor battles won on a daily basis. The war on patriarchal oppressions is going well. Her salary is secure. It arrives in the form of hefty, certified checks bearing the Streetheart family coat of arms. Unusual, to say the least, but the enterprise has survived a good while longer than any she knows of, operating on far from conventional terms. Chapter 44. The day has arrived, and the Edge is feeling, well, on edge. How is this all meant to work again? Can it really be as simple as splitting Michaela's affections with Abiarti? Does he still have any choice in it? No. No, he's made his bed now. He taps on the screen door of Michaela's apartment, even as he hears the distinctive growl of Lance's Porsche gearing down from the direction of the coast road. Her voice comes from her bathroom, or the bedroom. "Edgy? Yeah. Well, come on in. Be with you in a sec." The Edge stands in the open door as Lance parks his Panamera on the crumbling roadside out front. "That Lance?" "Yeah. Shall I tell him to go away?" "Ha! You wish. Let him in, would you?" The two men fill the space in the kitchenette. They smile and shake hands a little awkwardly for the first time since they've met. Neither finds any small talk before Michaela emerges from her washroom wearing a gauzy aqua cotton wrap shot through with gold threads. It clings to her hips, beginning 3 fingers below her navel, and falls to just below her knees. Her navel is a decorated marvel. There's a shimmering blue gemstone surrounded by some elaborate Mendy arabesques in burnt orange. A crochet bikini bra and inviting smile top off the ensemble. She walks into the little space between kitchenette and living room, wearing open-toed espadrilles, revealing freshly pearlescent blue nails. Her hair is up, only coming down again in delicate tendrils that snake past her ears to graze her shoulders. "Hello, boys. Come on in. Make yourselves at home." She indicates the couch in the living space now behind her. When neither man replies and each make only the most tentative attempts to move past her, Michaela laughs lightly and shrugs her shoulders. "Come on now. I know this is all kind of new, but I won't bite if you don't." The Edge makes his way around her at last, taking pains not to actually make any contact. As Lance is doing the same, Michaela flicks open the single button holding his sports jacket closed. The men sit themselves side by side on the couch. Michaela sashays into the space before them. She looks them over, standing arms folded across her chest, only a low coffee table separating them. So, maybe, guys, women actually are superior. I mean, it's our mothers that carry us in their bodies before we're even born, right? They are our creators. Our fathers barely contribute, just the minimum, the essential. It's our mothers that shape us from the moment of fertilization on. They've created every one of us, so naturally women are superior, right? Standing over them, hands on her hips now, Michaela gives them her best stern schoolmistress look. I mean, really? You know how retarded that sounds? Honestly, y'all believe that shit? Hey, more power to you. You'll need it. But listen, you think I'm all that? Hey, that's different. I think I'm pretty hot shit myself. But I don't want to see any groveling around here. Got it? You're a pair of good-looking guys, and it's a hell of a lot more flattering to have you act like it. That said, you want to spoil Michaela some? I think we can all get behind that. Both Lance and the Edge have listened attentively, not taking their eyes off their lovely lecturer for an instant. Michaela snaps her fingers, waves one hand back and forth before their eyes as if trying to wake the mesmerized. So, that's my bit. Questions? Comments? Criticisms? Lance looks to the Edge. The Edge sweeps an arm out in his after you gesture. You don't walk around the house so fine and feminine all the time, do you? I mean, we're still on a no-sex basis here, right? Here, and I thought it was Michaela the Bruiser that got you all so hot. Michaela indicates her attire with an innocent bit of vamping. I just did this to make things easier for you. Okay, kidding. Really, I thought you deserved a little eye candy, since it's about all you're gonna get out of this deal. But I can bust out the sweatpants and a nice stinky t-shirt. just give me a sec. No, I'm loving the elegance. I could, well, never mind. No, you could what, Lance? There is a moment while Lance searches desperately for some words. Oh, brother, what about you, Edgy? Damn, but you're a quiet son of a gun these days. I guess I know what's going through your mind, and I guess you know I know, but it'd still be nice to hear from you time to time, you know? Come on, give me some love. Outwardly, the Edge is perfectly composed. He tries always to show Michaela what he imagines she wants to see, the capable, self-confident man. Inside, at this moment, he is teetering on the brink of an abyss. Terrified he'll be required to confess abject devotion to Michaela here and now. He'd humbly do just that, but in front of a male peer? Anathema. What, ultimately, is his self-respect pegged to? He'd gone to ground but good when the loss of his championship sank in. It just felt a little too right, waking up on that canvas. Being champ had felt right too, but where had it led him to? He'd felt invincible living in the woods as a troubled teen too. That led him to a career in the cage. Dominating his opponents was good sport, but it also involved continual assertions of his alpha maleness, and that implied living a lie. Getting knocked out gave him some closure. He'd earned his out. He could choose a new path, and he hasn't regretted his concession. But now, is he looking for another out? What does Lance Abiarte's opinion of him matter in the big picture? These revolving considerations oppress the Edge. He really needs to chill. Something subtle in Michaela's eyes is telling him, no, reminding him, she really has no interest in a man's humbling himself to her at all. She merely humors him, humors them. The Edge knows that he shouldn't, but he remains mute, feels frozen, twisted, grotesque. The bottom has always beckoned the Edge, an imaginary refuge from guilt and from his heavy self-regard. It represents a Shangri-La where he can someday disappear, subservience the only passport required. In that kind of emotional space he could wallow, forever free of expectations. But who is he kidding? At his lowest, he'd lose sight of Michaela altogether. She'd walk away in disgust. That particular bottom is not beckoning. His life would become one long humiliation, a humiliation before the most implacable of judges, himself. If Michaela has no interest in his submitting to her, if she's only teasing him, his self-abasement would end by amusing Lance more than her. A pathetic cringe transforms the Edge's face. Gradually it becomes an apologetic smile. The painful transition inspires Michaela's sympathy. Ugh, fine. Back to you, Lance. You were saying? About my elegance?